Research by the University of Oxford analyzed the assets controlled across religious groups, and they found that Muslims surpass everyone by a huge margin. Jewish capital totaled $16 billion. Christian-aligned capital totaled roughly $260 billion. Dharmic or Hindu-related capital equaled roughly $300 billion. So that is a total of roughly $580 billion controlled by non-Muslim religious investment funds. It's a lot of money, right? Well, the combined total of Muslim, sovereign, and private finance capital totals roughly $4 trillion. That's almost 7 times the total of the assets controlled by non-Muslim investment funds combined. The sovereign wealth funds of just the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia are equal to roughly 2% of the entire global economy. Islamic banking assets are estimated to total just under $2 trillion. Now, of course, the biggest sovereign wealth funds are controlled by the Gulf states and by the rulers of the Gulf states. But no matter what you think about them, they're not playing with that money. They are steadily making some very diverse and strategic investments. I mean, did you know that Qatar, for example, helped to finance Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter? And they are investing increasingly in the Muslim world and in the global south. Now, Saudi Arabia has recently brought in BlackRock to help manage their sovereign wealth fund, which is bad. But all of the others, as far as I know, are controlled by their governments. And the Ukraine war, if nothing else, has shown us that these governments are not simply the puppets of the West that many of us thought they were. They are acting with autonomy and with sovereignty, and in many ways, they've really cracked the code in terms of how you deal with the West. They have understood that there is only one language that the West truly understands, and no, it's not violence. It's money. They know that as long as money is involved, everything else is just noise, whether it's Islamophobic noise or whether it's virtue signaling noise. It's just noise. I mean, the West may bang the table and shout liberal talking points, but under the table, deals are being conducted. Now, many Muslim countries, to one extent or another, did benefit from globalization, but we stand to benefit immeasurably more from deglobalization as long as we can successfully navigate that transition, which means first we have to understand and recognize that that is what's happening, and second, we have to not try to hold on to the old global order by kowtowing to the West and basically begging them to keep things as they were. Paradigm is shifting. We have the opportunity now to develop our own industrial strength, build our own companies, secure our own energy and food supply through cooperation, through solidarity, through trade and investment between Muslim countries and across the global south more broadly. I mean, did you know that one of the reasons why the GCC has refused to increase oil and LNG shipments to Europe was because they wanted their oil and gas to go to Asia. They were prioritizing their Asian customers. And did you know that Asia was exempted from the shortages that were caused by OPEC cutting oil production that seriously affected Europe and the West? This is practical solidarity. Yes, it's slow in development, but it's a start. Now, one of the things that made America and the West so dominant over the last 7 decades or so is because they were interested in expanding their sphere of influence to counter the Soviets. And they did this both through military power and through transactional deals. With deglobalization, they are less interested in those deals and less inclined towards far-flung military adventures. I mean, U.S. active duty servicemen, active duty military overseas across the world is at its lowest level in decades. And again, this is because the owners and controllers of global financialized capital are not nationalistic, and they're the real hegemon of the 21st century. What I'm saying is, the West is no longer going to be the center of gravity, not politically, not economically, and not ideologically. They can be defied. We don't have to bend over backwards to appease them. We don't have to seek their approval, and we don't have to engage with them on their terms. Of course, this is particularly true of those Muslim countries that possess the largest sovereign wealth funds, like the Gulf states and Malaysia. So if these countries, if these nations work in greater concert and direct more of their investment, not only towards their own development, which is important, but also towards projects throughout the global south and particularly in poorer Muslim countries, this will lay the foundation for building greater Muslim political, economic, and cultural sovereignty and influence around the globe. Insha'Allah, bi'idhnillah. And that will be better for everybody. Jazakum Allahu khairan wa assalamu alaikum.